afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our Ask Me Anything session for today. We've got some folks still dialing in that we are anticipating, so we'll give everyone just a couple of minutes and then we will be back. We are just a few minutes past, so thank you again, everyone, for joining today for our Ask Me Anything session. Everyone should be able to see my screen. So we'll go ahead, we'll hop in. We've got just a quick PowerPoint presentation to share with you, and then we'll be sure to hop into the system and then go over the topics that we are discussing today. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Brandon Peterson and Ellen Benzine. They are also account managers for ApplicantStack. Brandon, I believe, will be helping with some questions today. Our agenda, we would like to cover customizing your onboard system. So we'll show you how to customize your hire table and track important hire information. We'll talk about using your workflow stages to define and make your onboarding experience consistent for your hires. And we'll also talk about how to change your logo and welcome message for a little bit of branding, so you can make that a little bit more personal to your organization. I do have a link to some content, one of our blogs that you may want to review. I'm not sure, we may put that into the chat section as well for you to access that, but we do have our blog available in the upper left corner of your ApplicantStack screen. That should be available in the announcement section for you. And then we'll be sure to hop into questions and answers. Those can be questions, anything ApplicantStack. It doesn't have to be related to the topics we are covering today. As far as information that's important to you and customizing your ApplicantStack onboard system, we are focusing on onboard today. In 2019, Gallup reported that only 12% of employees strongly agree that their employer does a great job of onboarding. The onboarding experience is very important. It's the employee's kind of introduction into your organization. Best practices for onboarding include creating a process that's structured, personal, and tailored to the new employee. So we'll be talking about using custom fields and ApplicantStack to track important information that's specific to your organization or to the hire, such as hire date. Maybe you want to track pay rate. Are they driving on company time? Do they need a driver's license? And things of that nature. Once you create those fields will be available to search on, or you can run a report and pull that information in, which will help you kind of manage things. Okay, just one second. As far as making your hiring process consistent, regardless of role or department, every new hire at your organization should have a consistent experience as they are coming on board with your company. You can use workflow stages to define the steps your hire will go through. That will set the framework for your workflow. So as far as triggering information in the system, automating things a little bit for yourself, that will help set you up for that process. and it will help ensure that no items are missed as your candidates or hires are onboarded. And also branding and welcoming your hires to the organization. It will get them excited to join your company. Effective onboarding meets the expectations of an employee who had a great recruiting process, and it continues to shape the employee experience. Your onboarding process should create a process that establishes brand loyalty, and as we mentioned, you can upload your logo and create your own custom welcome message for hires to review. Okay, we have some upcoming events. We have an Ask Me Anything series on March 7th, Recruit Best Practices, and March 26th, Candidate Self-Scheduling. We've got a quick code for you to scan to register, or again, they should be available on the announcement section on your homepage. And ApplicantStack Onboard webinar will be on March 19th. That will be an overview of the system. And we have some other topics listed here. Same idea, you can go ahead and scan to register for those as well. Okay, and as we mentioned, we'll hop into the system and then we'll go ahead and come back for questions that you have, anything related to ApplicantStack. With that, I'll go ahead and bring you into the onboard system. I've used the toggle here to move over to onboard from Recruit. And we want to cover first how to create custom fields in your onboard system. So you will come over to your setup, which is under, I've got a quick photo here, or you may have a Head and Shoulders icon. You'll come over to Configure and Hire Fields. From there, you will go ahead and click on Create Field. From there, you'll be prompted for a number of different items. What is the name of the field? Maybe a description. What type is that? You can have a pick list. You can have a select many. Maybe it's a date field. That will give you a little calendar picker. You can go ahead and include that in the general information section on the Hire portal if you'd like to. You can make that public or private. So again, on the Hire portal, who is going to see that information? So when they go to edit their contact information, we've got a quick note here that will display if you decide to have that. You can show that on your hire table. More than likely, you'll want to do that. It can be required or optional. It can be recruiter only, and we can hide it from hiring manager users. So if it's sensitive information, you might want to consider doing that. There is an option for encryption as well. So once you set that all up, you will go ahead and save that information. And when I come back into our hire fields, you do have the option to reorder those fields if you would like. So you'll simply click and drag into the order that you would like to have those appear. Reordering them here in this list will also reorder them on your hire table, which I'll show you in just a second. So just be aware that will impact that as well. Okay, I'm on our hire table now. So for example, we have a field for referral, for type, social security number. So some of those are custom. You probably don't see those in your account unless you've created them. But those will go ahead and appear once they've been created. It will come over to that table if you have chosen to display it there. Sometimes users will have to scroll back and forth if your table is getting unmanageable. If there's too many items, you can click on this blue icon up in the upper right. If there's something you don't want to see, you can simply uncheck that, and that will be removed from your table view. Okay, so I unchecked referral, and now referral is no longer displaying. As far as actually populating these items, you will go ahead and check your hire. You will set value. You will come over to the appropriate section. So we want to go ahead and populate the hire date. They're on board now. We know they're on board. You can simply submit that, and that information will populate on the table. Okay, once we have those fields created, we can go ahead and pull those into a report. So let's go ahead and come over to reports. We'll create a quick report. We can go ahead and give that a name. For now, I'm just going to name it test. I'll go ahead and pull hire information. And we have our hire fields. So maybe we want to create a quick report, first name, last name. We want to pull in that hire date. We can simply drag that over and pull that in. Reports will probably be a separate area of discussion. So I just wanted to show you that once you create a custom field, it will be available here. You can report on that information. And back on our hire table, we can go ahead and also do a search based on that information on those custom fields. So maybe I want to search for candidates that were hired within a certain date range. I can go ahead and populate that, run a search, and that's going to show me hires that are available that fit those parameters. Okay, so that is, again, custom fields. So you can track information on your hire table. You can easily see it here, or you're able to use that information to drill down a little bit further, perhaps in a search or in a report. With that, we'll go ahead and hop over to workflow stages. Those are the steps that your hire is going to go through as they come through your process. So back on our home page, we have the pipeline summary, so we can see our stages. We've got new, maybe paperwork in progress, paperwork completed. Are they going through orientation? Are they going through training? So this gives you an overall snapshot of what's happening. And then we'll see how many hires are in each stage of our process. So let's say you have a stage of your process that is needed in addition to these stages. We'll come to setup again. We'll come to configure. So same place we just were. And we will come to workflow stages. So I have gone ahead and created just a test stage just for purposes today. It's going to prompt you, is that an active stage? So that just means that the hire is actively in the process. An example of an inactive stage would be maybe if they're terminated or everything is set, they are onboarded, that might be an inactive stage. So you'll simply give that a name, for example, test stage. Same idea as the hire fields, we can go ahead and reorder those stages if we desire. This will go ahead and, as we mentioned, set the framework for your hire workflow. So your workflow by stage, you can define what happens at that workflow. You can trigger, for example, emails. You can trigger checklists of items to be assigned. So that would be a separate topic. It's a little bit above and beyond what we want to cover today, but that will set that framework for your workflow to be set up. Okay, and then back on our home page, we can see we have that test stage added here. And then once we move over to the hire table again, we can go ahead and set value, and we can go ahead and change the stage that the hire is in. So if we want to move them to paperwork completed, everything is done, we'll simply select that and submit that so we can track where the hire is in the process. And the last item we had to cover would be the branding for your new hire portal. So coming into, let's come into John Nicholas as an example. If we come to view portal, I just want to show you the end result so we can see we've got a logo uploaded here. And we just have a welcome message welcoming the employee to the team, really setting that tone for their experience with your organization. To change that, you would go ahead and come to back to setup. We would come over to our settings. Down at the bottom, we have hire portal. We'll go ahead and edit those settings. And then you'll be able to modify your portal instructions. We can go ahead and choose our logo, and we can align that left, center, or right on that page, depending on where you want that to appear. Okay, so that is pretty good overview of how you can modify the system kind of to meet your needs and customize it for your company, for your hire, and really improve that onboarding experience. So with that, we'll go ahead, we'll open up the floor for questions. If you could go ahead and submit those via the questions panel. Again, our team will be helping with those questions today. They can be anything ApplicantStack. It doesn't have to be specific to Onboard. It can be a recruit question, any question that you have, and we'll do our best to help you with those.
All right, great. Thank you, Carol. The first question here is about a candidate who's applied before. So if you've applied before and submitted an application, but they didn't get hired previously, and they want to apply again, what's the best way to send them the application anew?
Sure, and Brandon, I think you've actually run across this situation before. So we do have some situations where, let's say the email address is already in the system. You may need to modify the email on the first record, perhaps add some digits or, test email, something of that sort, because the system may give you some trouble when you're trying to rehire somebody. But you can go ahead and create a new record. You can modify the email for the old record. You could come in and simply, let's come to John Nicholas. You can reassign any forms or checklists that need to happen to that hire, and that should come to their portal for them to complete that information. Brandon, can you think of anything else to add? I know you've run across this situation before.
Yeah, what I've kind of landed on as far as best practices is to just use the old record. And so you're going to have documents, if they filled out documents previously, those are going to be older documents. They're going to be time-stamped by those older dates. And then, like you said just now, you just reassign the checklist to them. So they'll have duplicates in there, but one version will be from when they were first hired, and the other version will be from present day. I found that causes the least amount of headache.
Lots of different ways to do the same thing, but the form should be date stamped, so you'll be able to determine which is the new one, which is the old one. So thank you for that, Brandon.
Hey, and I'm going to jump in for just a minute too, Carol and Brandon, if you don't mind. If you actually require your seasonal hires or hires that you have hired previously to go through your application process a second time, and you move those individuals to the hired stage in Recruit in order to trigger them to go on to onboarding. If those individuals have the same email address, they're not going to move to onboarding because it's the email address in both Recruit and Onboard that is the unique identifier in the software. So if you ever come to that situation, you're like, oh my goodness, this new rehire isn't going over to Onboard. First thing I would do is suggest checking to see if that rehire is in onboarding already with the same email address. And then, as Brandon and Carol said, then determine what your next course of action is in regard to assigning new or additional paperwork.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. That is helpful.
All right, the next question is, can you demonstrate how to load documents into the library to send new candidates for onboarding?
Sure thing. We've got 2 different routes for you. Where you want to start is your library. We do have standard forms available, so your state tax forms, your federal tax forms, the I-9, things of that nature. Pretty standard. Everyone should be using those. Those are available via import form. They're already built for you. Our team stays on top of those, so if any changes happen, it will be updated in the system, but you can, for example, check the ones you need. So we've got 2024 here at the bottom. Looks like some were updated. You'll simply import those. And then if you have a custom form, so something specific to your organization, we can go ahead and add form. So you'll click on that. I'm going to go a little bit different route. I'll come into edit. You'll be prompted when you add a form for a PDF. From there, just wanted to show you this is typically what you'll see. So we'll have the option for you to add some instructions. What type of form is that? Is that a hire only form? Is it employer only? Higher than employer would be something along the lines of the I-9. So they'll complete their section, then the employer will complete the employer section. And then the reverse of that, maybe the employer completes something and then the hire will complete something. You'll see a view similar to this. This is our form. Fields will be highlighted in blue that need to be completed. If one just doesn't pull over, or you need to go ahead and pull that over, you can go ahead and just simply click and drag. So we have a single line text, we have a signature. Maybe we need a little bit more room. Let's pull over a multi-line text. Maybe it is a date field. You'll simply pull those over into the appropriate section of the form. You can resize them if you need. And if we double click on that, we can do a little bit more work. So we can go ahead and designate what type that is it required, and so forth. There's some validation that can happen. If it's a social security number, there's a little bit that can happen there as well. So that allows you to kind of modify your field and how it's working for you. And that would be how you load them into your library. How to assign them is a different question. But I think we've answered the question so far for that particular inquiry.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Mary Lou, and she says, what stage do we put the hire on if they do not show for orientation in onboarding?
Okay, so I'm assuming that means they were scheduled for orientation and then they did not show up for orientation. So what you may need to do is, oh, yep, that is correct. So coming into our setup, maybe we want to create a workflow stage. Hire workflow stages. We'll create a stage no show for orientation. I will keep that active for now, just for demonstration purposes. Okay, and once we have that created, that should be available for selection on our hire table. And hopefully, I'm going to close a couple tabs out to see if that helps. Hopefully we're not losing access to our internet. All right, let me back out. Okay, no show for orientation has been created. Sorry for the pause there. And then if we come back to our hire table, you would go ahead and George Blake didn't, well, let's use John as an example. Since John has no activity, we'll go ahead, set that value. We will put John into the no show for orientation stage. We'll submit that. And then coming back to the home page, the pipeline summary, we would go ahead and see that we have no show for orientation. We have one in that stage. Okay, I might consider that an inactive stage because at that point they didn't come on board. There's no reason for them to access the system right now. That will kind of boot them from the system so they're not logging in at that point. So you may want to consider that an inactive stage, but that is how I would handle that situation.
Okay, thank you. Ellen, do you see any other questions coming through?
The only other question, Carol, has to do with inactive stage again. When a hire has completed all the paperwork, what do you suggest, or how do you suggest moving them to a stage, an inactive stage?
Sure. So that's going to depend on how your stages were set up. But let's say George Blake, right now he's 75% done. Let's just pretend that he is completed. we can go ahead and move him into paperwork completed. Okay, and once that's done, depending on how you have your filter set up, we have active stages, we have inactive. So that is where that comes into play. Do they show on the active stage table or do they show inactive? So active hire, inactive hire will filter out anybody who's marked in an inactive stage.
And just to clarify the question, it is from Tara. And again, the question was, does any inactive stage automatically lock candidates out of the system? And so as Carol explained, yes, Tara. So when a hire has completed all of the paperwork, you don't want them accessing their portal anymore. I would highly suggest moving them to an inactive stage that could be titled something like, completed.
Okay. And then the next question is, it's a follow-up from Mary Lou, who's been asking about stages if they don't show for onboarding, for example. And she says the hire remains on the list in onboarding. No show hire remains on the onboarding list. So that would.
Yep. So as long as you designate no show as an inactive, they will come over to this inactive filter here. And then your active hires will remain on the active list, or will be on the inactive list. I would not recommend deleting hires. You certainly could if maybe they never came on board. We're not worried about any data loss. We can go ahead and delete them from the system. Again, I was always taught, don't delete things. You've got that record maybe a couple years from now. You want to remember that, oh, so-and-so backed out. He never came to orientation. You can come back and see that. You could search by stage or run a report. Who is in that stage? And then, well, they didn't take it so seriously the first time around. Why do we think they might be serious this time? So you might want to have that historical information just for your own sake to have that.
Okay, so another question is about if there's errors or if something on a form needs to be updated, what's the best way to go about that? It appears that once forms are completed, the user is locked out of editing that. So what's the best practice to update that form?
Sure. For that, let's go back to John's portal. One thing to mention is forms to a point are able to be modified. So let's say it's a two-part form, the hire has completed their part, the employer has not. At that point, the hire should be able to come in and edit that form. If you don't see that edit icon, that means we've gone too far and that will have to be resent to that hire. So you'll simply come back into John's profile. You can add that particular form and resend that for the hire to complete, and that will come back to their portal and they can complete that information.
Okay, and the next question we might need to ask for a little bit of clarification, but we have been debating how to add a new employee that is a repeat. Do we add them to the job through the template, or going to candidate, click on the position in the jobs category? Lisa, could you clarify that question for us, please, a little bit?
Okay, I'm just rereading that question. Typically, it sounds like we're sending them from recruit. And then once you change them to hired, they would come over to the onboard system. And it will prompt you, who's the manager, what workflow do they go through. So do we add them through the job, through the template, or going to the candidate?
I could even unmute her. Should I do that and ask her to speak up?
Yep, we can try that.
Yeah, that's not working. Any other questions? Can you demonstrate how to, oh wait, sorry, that was a repeat. I think that's all the questions so far.
Okay.
Again, I'm just going to jump in, Carol, for a minute.
Sure.
If Lisa needs more clarification, we'll get the report, see what account she's from, and then one of us, being account managers, will follow up with you, Lisa. That was all I had to add, Carol.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Amazing.
that wraps up all of our questions, Carol.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the question screen, waiting for it to come, but haven't seen it.
Yep.
So Lisa, we can be in touch with you to make sure we get that answered. Okay, fantastic. Well, I think we have answered all the questions. So again, we look forward to seeing you in the future on those upcoming webinars and Ask Me Anything sessions. Feel free to reach out to your account manager with any questions or via the white question mark in the upper right of your ApplicantStack screen. We have an extensive help center there for you with knowledge-based articles. You can touch base with our support team, and we're always happy to help as well. So thanks everyone for attending. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Bye-bye.
Everyone, bye-bye.